Hi, my name is Greg Pruitt. I am the president of the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, and today we are going to be doing a deep dive into the history of constitutional carry here in the state of Idaho. And figured before time gets too far away from us, this would be a great time to go back and recap the entire fight from beginning to finish. And I actually kind of want to start with the finish part here real quick because I get asked frequently, and I actually just got asked by a lawmaker recently, where does it say constitutional carry in Idaho code? And if you're looking for that specific phrase, you're never going to find it. It's not how it's written. The constitutional carry law, or the portion of it that sort of defines it, is kind of complicated. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw up 18-3302. That is the specific code that you are looking for. And I'm going to go to the specific section that you want to look at. And here's where I think people get a lot of confusion from. So what we're specifically looking at is 18-3302 subsection 3. Okay. And subsection 3 says no person shall carry concealed weapons on or about his person without a license to conceal weapons except. Okay. And so then what you're going to do is you jump down to subsection 4, and it's basically a list of places or ways in which subsection 3 does not apply to you. Okay, so a weapon that's located in plain view, for instance, subsection 4, part A. B, any lawfully possessed shotgun or rifle. C, D, E. And then when you get to F, F is the specific part that we are looking at. Okay, F says any deadly weapon concealed by a person who is over 18 years of age, okay, 18 and older, or a citizen of the United States. It's that simple, okay? And this is where even some current law enforcement officials don't quite understand the current law, because they go in there and they try to figure out ways in which it does not apply to certain demographics. But that is full constitutional carry. That's what has been in place since July 1st, 2020. Okay, the original passage of constitutional carry was in 2016, and then it was expanded twice thereafter in 2019 and 2020. So that is the specific section of code that you are looking for when you're looking at constitutional carry, which is, here's the exceptions to needing a permit. One of the exceptions is that you just have to be 18 years and older. You're not disqualified in any way from carrying a firearm, and you just have to be a citizen. Okay. And so, but it wasn't always like that. And that's what we're going to get into, is going back to the beginning of the fight for constitutional carry, which is really when the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance got started. We started on August 21st, 2012. Okay. So that's after the 2012 legislative session, but that's when we started. And that was our primary push at the time. I want to say Vermont, Wyoming, Alaska, and Arizona were the only 4 states that had some form of constitutional carry. Some people call it permitless carry, whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. It's all the same thing. Okay. So 2013 was our first legislative session. And at that time, we had been gathering signatures. My friend Seth and I, Seth is on our board. He's been with us from day one, good friend of mine. We were going down to Boise Gun Company. We were standing out in the snow. We were gathering signatures from citizens to petition our government for getting constitutional carry passed. This is at the time, it is no different now, was an 80% Republican legislature, 80% in the House, 80% in the Senate, plus every statewide office was controlled, including the governor, who at that time was Governor Butch Otter. So we're Republican, okay? And as you guys know, on the campaign trail, pro Second Amendment. We love the Second Amendment. And at that time, when Obama was in office, it was becoming a huge ordeal, right? Obama was really targeting the 2A. And so you had a lot of people very concerned about what was going on. But at the end of the day, this is a Republican state. Heavy Republican state. Why in the world are we not one of these 4 states that has this doesn't make any sense. And so when the first legislative session rolled around, I had sat down with Eric Macrush from the who works with the Idaho Freedom Foundation at the time. He was also, I went to church with him. He was a good friend of mine. Sat down with him and he's like, here's how legislation works. Here's how you should write it, yada, 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 yada. Okay. So we meet with him. I get a bill or a draft of something ready to go. And I start going into the Capitol in 2013. And I spend the entire session pretty much by myself going door to door or cubicle to cubicle, as it may be, talking to lawmakers, anybody I could. I reached out to all 105 of them. I didn't necessarily going to meet with all of them, but I met with a ton. And I can tell you right now, 99% of them had no idea what I was talking about. They had never heard of constitutional carry. It was a completely foreign concept. There was only a handful of folks that I talked to that really understood what constitutional carry was. And so, okay, well, fine, whatever. And so in 2013, I get sent down this rabbit hole of, well, you really need to do it next year, Greg. Next year's the time for constitutional carry. This is a non-election year. It's not going to matter, yada, yada, yada. And okay, sure. You're the lawmakers. You're the experts. Let's do it your way. 2014 rolls around. Same thing. I'm going in. I'm got these white papers. I'm talking to people. I'm meeting with lawmakers again. It's starting to become a little bit less foreign to some of them. And then I get told, well, next year you don't want to do it in election year. We're going to rock the boat in election year. You probably need to look at 2015. And I'm like, wait a minute here. There's only 2 years. You guys are elected every 2 years. You're telling me the non-election year is bad, election year is bad. Like something's not adding up here. I don't quite understand what's happening. In the meantime, they were pushing. I would say in 2013 they may have pushed the enhanced carry permit, and then 2014 they were pushing the campus carry bill, which we said, look, this thing's got all sorts of problems, and if you pass it this way, it's probably never going to change. And it still hasn't changed, by the way, since it originally passed back in 2014. So we loved campus carry, but had some serious concerns about how it was written. And that's a whole other story for another day. So 2015 rolls around, and Senator Marv Hagedorn gave me what's called a purple slip. So a lawmaker in Idaho, at least as of this video, has the ability to give anyone they want a purple slip. And the purple slip allows you to go and actually get your legislation drafted into a draft form that will look more, legitimate, so to speak, rather than just a piece of paper. And so I end up introducing House Bill 89, which was then eventually picked up and ran by Representative Heather Scott. So we have a march. I'll show you a picture here. This is in 2015. We do a march from the Grove to the Capitol building. You can see there, yes, on HB 89, had a big rally. I think Representative Heather Scott spoke. Our attorney Alexandria Kincaid spoke at that rally, and I did as well, obviously. So we rally around HB 89. We are flooding the Capitol with emails, with phone calls, doing everything we can. And here was the interesting thing. So Tom Lurcher, this is the guy on the left here. You might recognize Becky. He's the lieutenant governor now. He was the speaker then. Lurcher, we had the introduction of 89, and he seemed very open to it. And then all of a sudden, he completely flipped, and ended up blocking the bill throughout the entire 2015 legislative session. And despite us having thousands of signatures gathered, rallying, the emails, the phone calls, that by far the hottest issue that they dealt with was House Bill 89. And Lurcher decided, rather than listening to the will of the people and at least having a public hearing on the bill, like he wouldn't even have a public hearing on it, he decided to kill it. Okay, so he kills HB 89, but that was the very first constitutional carry bill in the state of Idaho. So then you roll around to 2016, and that's when things got interesting. We marched about 2,000 people from the Grove to the State House, had a huge rally on the Capitol steps. Again, started flooding the Capitol with phone calls and emails to support constitutional carry. I want to say Representative Heather Scott and Representative Ron Nate at the time were both pushing variations of it. Now, what happened is, and what has happened in the Capitol for a long time, is there was a certain subset of lawmakers who made up what we called the Secret Gun Committee. And they would go behind closed doors, and there's a couple from the Senate and a couple from the House, and then the NRA rep will go behind closed doors, and they would just have this discussion about gun bills rather than doing anything openly and talking to the people about what was going on. They just went in behind closed doors and did everything in secret. And so we started calling that out, saying, hey, this is ridiculous. Like, let's just do constitution. This isn't complicated. Right? 18 and older, any legal citizen in the United States, there's no reason we shouldn't have that here in the state of Idaho like they have in other states. And so this is where it got interesting, because we get down to the end of the legislative session, and the Secret Gun Committee comes out with, I will show you here, Senate Bill 1378. There's me when I was much skinnier and didn't have a beard, talking to Senator Steve Vick, who was probably one of the few good senators that we had at the Capitol. Okay, this is the bill the NRA came up with, was Senate Bill 1378. The problem with that bill is that it contained gun control, and that's what my sign said. It was like, hey, this is going to take away gun rights. And just so you can kind of understand how constitutional carry worked in Idaho at the time, we had a part version of it. And that's the easiest way to explain it, I guess. So inside city limits is what the NRA was trying to push for, essentially. So outside city limits, if you were 18 and older, anyone in America 18 and older outside of city limits had constitutional carry in Idaho already. And all we had to do was bring it inside city limits. That was it. That was really the only change that had to happen to get us full constitutional carry. Well, the NRA version said you'll have constitutional carry inside city limits if you're an Idahoan and you're 21 and older. And oh, by the way, that outside city limits thing, we're going to remove that and make it only Idahoans 21 and older. So it would have been the same throughout the state, but they were actually going to go backwards outside of city limits and remove constitutional carry for those between 18 and 20 and anyone who was not an Idahoan. And we were like, what are you doing? Why are we going backwards? Why are we taking away gun rights and then hoping we can come back another year and fix it like that? That doesn't make any sense. We would rather expand it inside city limits first. And, well, first of all, our goal was just to do it all at once rather than having to come back at any time. But we protested outside the Senate chambers, and that particular bill that the NRA came up with died. The NRA rep called me on the phone that night. I was like, what are you doing, man? This is your issue. This is the issue you've been fighting for years. I can't believe that I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you pushing gun control? Because that's what it is. You're telling the government we're going to take away your rights. I mean, sure, it's not going to impact me. I was over 21. I was an Idahoan, so it didn't impact me. But what the heck are you doing? You're the NRA. Why are you even doing it like this? Well, you understand that if we do it this other way, I said, that it's going to be this tangled web of things. And I said, it doesn't have to be if we just do it the right way the first time. So then the next bill, so that was 1378. Again, let me show you the sign here. Okay, 1378, as you can see there, the bill that ends up passing and getting signed by the governor is Senate Bill 1389, right? So it's literally just a few bills after that one that they come out with Senate Bill 1389, which makes it so all Idahoans 21 and older have constitutional carry throughout the state. Now, we were not satisfied with that. And there was only a handful of Republicans, by the way, that came out and voted against that. So one of those here was Representative Maxine Bell. We had this drawing done where you can see her shaking the hand of Michael Bloomberg. They were really happy about these drawings, by the way. This one, Representative Rich Wills, who ultimately was defeated by Representative Christy Zito, who's now a state senator. But at the time, she was a representative, and she took out one of the only other people who voted against constitutional carry. The problem was, so now we had constitutional carry for all Idahoans 21 and older, but outside city limits, we had this really combobulated thing. And so we had this graph made up way back in the day trying to explain how constitutional carry worked. And you can see, I mean, it was a mess. It was a total mess. And all they had to do, all the lawmakers had to do in Idaho was do this not in a way that made it so that it was 18 and older outside city limits, but inside city limits this and all this other stuff. It was nonsense. And so we kept fighting. We kept, this was, I think, the following year, we were calling out Chairman Tom Lurcher for blocking the gun bills again, which he did frequently. And we spent the next couple years going out and expanding constitutional carry. And here's another picture of Lurcher. Without a doubt, is going to be a slow year for gun rights. We were going down to his district. We were passing out flyers in his district saying, look, this guy keeps blocking gun bills. We don't understand why he's doing that. Well, eventually, Chairman Lurcher ends up losing in 2018 to Representative Chad Christensen. We were the only group that got involved for years going after this guy, saying, look, he's the one that is blocking the gun bills. It's up to you guys whether you want to keep him or not keep him. And ultimately, gun owners tossed him out of office, a 32-year incumbent. And the gun owners they had had enough. They had had enough. So if you go to 2019, we had House Bill 206. That was ran by Representative Zito. And Representative Julianne Young also tagged along with her. That lowered the age limit. We actually thought the age limit thing would have been a harder push, but it wasn't. So then in 2019, we get HB 206. That lowers the age limit throughout the state to 18, okay, including inside city limits. That one I actually thought was going to be harder, but it wasn't. And we kept the same argument we had for years was this line is arbitrary. So you can be 18 outside of city limits, but then you cross into the city and now you got to be 21. Like, this is stupid. It doesn't make any sense. So the legislature agreed. They passed HB 206 and it became law in 2019. And then in 2020, HB 516, also ran by Representative Zito, and looks like it was carried by Senator Rice. He was out of Caldwell. HB 516 made it so that all these people who were not Idahoans, okay, just Americans, could carry outside of city limits. And again, we made the same argument. This is stupid. This is some arbitrary line that when you cross into city limits, now you got to have a permit. It just doesn't make any sense. So that was passed and went into law on July 1st, 2020. So it took from August 21st, 2012, when we started pushing constitutional carry, to get to July 1st, 2020, to have full constitutional carry in Idaho, despite Idahoans 21 and older having it back on July 1st of 2016. That is a very brief and short history. Here's another image I found online of when Bloomberg and every town and everybody, tried to take out constitutional carry, the full version. Here's another fun drawing that we had. I don't know how many. There's so many states now. There's like 20 something states. Like half the country has constitutional carry now. But the truth is, the reality is, the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, and nobody will be able to take this away from our organization. We were the spearhead for constitutional carry. We were the ones that pushed it. Had we not even pushed the expansion, I don't know that it'd be done. I don't know that anyone else would have tried to push full constitutional carry here in the state of Idaho after it was the initial passage of the one in 2016. The Idaho Second Amendment Alliance by far has had the biggest impact for constitutional carry. Without us, maybe we get around to it now that all the other states are doing it. Who knows? But it was our organization that pushed it for years. We fought for it. We didn't cave. We didn't compromise. We didn't go behind closed doors and try to cut a deal. We stood up against a lot of people that, could have made it significantly worse. The Idaho legislature has a problem of watering down gun bills. They do it all the time. Here's another. This is I don't remember when this drawing was. I want to say it was in 2017, maybe. Us, gun owners telling Becky that we just want stuff restored, or telling the government, and there's Becky with a watered down bucket of amendments, and this is Bart Davis here peeking behind the door. He was the Senate pro tem for quite a while, and was a major hindrance to a lot of pro Second Amendment bills for years. That's the truth. That's the history of constitutional carry in Idaho. And I hope that you guys will take the opportunity to watch, listen, and obviously share this important video. But that's the truth. That's what the establishment doesn't want you to know, is that gun owners have so much power in this state. And when you make your voices heard, they listen. They listen on a lot of issues. But in particular, when gun owners mobilize, they have the ability to make a huge, huge difference. So if that's the organization you want to be a part of, join isa.com, become a member today. And we'd love to have your guys' support. Thank you. Take care. God bless.